The upcoming opposition between Venus, newly into Leo, opposing Pluto, the god of the underworld, at 5 degrees and 7 minutes on Wednesday, June 17th, is an incredible time to own the Venus archetype in all of her feminine power and glory, to claim the ground that we walk on and not diminish ourselves, and to stand firm and clear in relationship. I'm going to explain all about the archetypal significance, why this is the case, and then give you 3 concrete tools to use as the transit unfolds this week. Hi, I'm Amy Rose White. I'm an integrative psychotherapist and astrologer making videos with concrete healing tools that align with the astrological transits. So when Venus and Pluto oppose, they notoriously signify power struggles in love and relationship. Issues of control, domination, and even the abuse of vulnerable people, and of course women. Venus as the feminine archetype not only represents beauty based on maybe subjective terms, but of the pleasure principle, of the art of receiving and connecting, and the ability to shine fully in her magnificence. And one of the shadow dynamics of Venus opposing Pluto are those who seek to extinguish or diminish that light. This transit, therefore, is going to amplify the key archetype of the wound of Venus in Leo, often particularly highlighted with people who have Venus in Leo retrograde in their charts, and that is the fear of shining too brightly. Here's the great news. We are very lucky to find ourselves emerging victorious around totally owning and commanding those energies within all of us, because right before the opposition to Pluto, Venus sextiles Uranus in Gemini at 2 degrees 54 minutes on Monday the 15th, and then on Tuesday the 16th, she trines Neptune in Aries at 4 degrees and 18 minutes, which is still under that seemingly omnipresent sextile from Pluto. I talked in my last video, linked here, about Glamour Girl Summer because of Venus's entry into Leo, meeting with that trine to Neptune, and the kind of cinematic, artistic, and creative force that this can provide. And this is a really lovely aspect before the Venus-Pluto opposition because it provides cosmic support and a strengthening of those Venusian principles that allows us to actually step into queen energy and not collapse under the pressure of Plutonian forces, which most of us have experienced in relationship, if not with intimate partners, perhaps with caregiver, parent, and often fathers. This is experienced as the pressure to conform, to make ourselves small, and to make other people comfortable. And even just the temptation to be easily manipulated will be much less now because of the combination of these transits at the time of the opposition. This Venus in Leo is far better able to hold her ground and expand in the space. I once had a teacher tell me to imagine entering a room with my arms out like this, allowing my energy to fill the entire space with light. And that is what Venus trine Neptune sextiling Gemini, which is the opportunity to open through the beliefs that might have kept us more easily victimized, abused, or even just mentally messed with, where someone tells you something. I'm visiting at a friend's house in Oregon. They have 2 darling dogs. So if you see my hands moving down or, cute friend in the background, that's what's going on. And so what I was talking about is, when someone tries to mess with your mind by telling you something that invalidates your reality and you start to question whether you are crazy, you start to question your own reality or subjective experience. No, not today, my friend. This is the energy of being able to resist where we fall prey, where we have fallen prey to that vulnerability in the past. So back to the fear of shining too brightly, which is what I want to talk about most regarding this transit, because I think it's the most relevant core wound up for reorganizing and transformation, Pluto, at the time of this opposition. Remember, oppositions are relational. So it's like a tug of rope between 2 planets. And it's not that someone needs to win, but there needs to be a recognition of that dynamic tension. That tension is leading to an increase in awareness and change in our behavior, our thinking, and the way we relate to that dynamic. So with regard to the feeling that it's dangerous to shine too brightly, women are both, they're maligned for not being feminine enough and also punished, judged, and shamed for standing in their beauty and glory. And in my last video, I actually personally experienced this. Someone commented that I seem to place an emphasis on appearance and that I should remember that looks all fade eventually. This was a comment made On the video where I was describing Venus's entry into Leo signifying relationships where one is looking for emotional depth and connection over superficiality. So go figure. So this leads me to only be able to assume that this person's judgment of me is based on how I dress and my physical appearance in my YouTube videos. Because I do come on here wearing my favorite big chunky jewelry, which I don't have on at the moment, and my shiny sequin collection. There's nothing subtle about my presentation with what I'm wearing, I suppose. But I think the comment is actually more about the fact that I'm not afraid to take up space. I'm not afraid to be a middle-aged woman wearing what she loves, doing it my way. And it was such an excellent example of what Venus in Leo is up against, opposing Pluto and trining Neptune. She could be punished and judged for being too glamorous. Not talking about me, but the archetype, at least in the eyes of others. And to this, I call bullshit. So let's be aware of people's projections onto us. So many women in particular are really afraid. They have suppressed their own radiance and their femininity, afraid to shine. And so many people feel the need for some reason to blame, shame, or judge others as if they are somehow more shallow because of how they choose to express themselves. And in my case, that's as an artist. This is one of my artistic expressions as a dancer, a musician, a singer, a lover of all the arts. Yes, I'm a psychotherapist. That is my paid job and I'm passionate about it. But I'm an artist, and that includes a lifelong love of vintage clothing and bold accessories. While I'm often found in a trucker hat, camping in the mountains where I live, I also have an entire closet filled with tops like this. For the part of me that believes more is more. And I will not be made small for that. So to all of you who have a secret sequin fetish, or love of feathers, or a desire to dress all in one color perhaps, or perhaps your artistic expression has nothing to do with how you dress and everything to do with how you interact with the world, I invite you to return to sender right now any negative projections from insecure people, because I can promise you I will still be dressing like this when I'm 100 years old. Pluto's symbolism can bring us great psychological, personal, and spiritual transformation via an underworld journey that often involves loss, confrontation, fear, feelings of loss of agency. Pluto can be those who seek to bring you down, underworld, make you small, and actually invite fears around your own enoughness, your own specialness, your own choice of how you express yourself in the world. And one of the worst things that can happen when we're exposed to people, places, and things that seek to make us small, because it benefits them to project their own fears and inner hatred onto someone else, is that we question our own personal expression. Or we insist that it be perfect or polished or pretty before we share it with the world. Even if that means painting alone in your living room, some people will avoid that, even though no one will ever see it, because of this not good enough, or who am I to shine? Who am I to express? Who am I to create? Venus in Leo that's about to be conjoined by Jupiter by co-presence, which, by the way, extraordinarily supportive for the house that Leo occupies in your chart. She is not going to be bullied around this anymore. And I think any lingering effects of Venus opposing Pluto will be outweighed by the wisdom and the truth that Jupiter's presence can provide, if any of those insecurities arise for us. So for me, showing up on this channel, whether I'm feeling great about my appearance, I have not showered today, I've been traveling all night, whether I have a lot of energy or the lighting is good, whether I slept well or I didn't, part of that showing up in all the places that I dance every week and going full out when I feel possessed by the music. That's how I embody this energy. Talking about the astrology and the transit every week when I know I may forget or miss some aspect of a transit or a dignity category, or I might take an entirely different approach or angle than others might. These kinds of seemingly small risks are the invitation, the essence, and the challenge of Venus and Leo in the opposition. And I cannot think about this archetype without imagining the Lion in the Wizard of Oz. I'm sure that's a reference people often make to leonine energy, because for all of their regality and beauty and splendor, the lion still has a heart, with its own frailties and fragilities and vulnerabilities. And yet this transit asks us to summon the courage of our hearts, to reveal our hearts, to risk showing them openly to the people that we love, and to say the thing that we have to share with the world in all of its forms, however it comes out, perfect or not. I know Brene Brown says something about, those who judge have no right to do so if they haven't stepped in the ring or something like that. I'm butchering that, but it's a powerful point. So during this transit, I invite you to step into the ring at whatever level or whatever way that resonates for you. It certainly doesn't have to be on the dance floor or a YouTube channel. There are a million small, medium, large ways that are very deeply personal to each of us. And I think we can face that Plutonian dark control structure energy that comes from people's own unprocessed pain, intrapsychic issues. And we can resist. We can say no. We can age the way we want to. We can dress the way we want to. We can wear makeup or not wear makeup. We can dye our hair or not dye our hair. We can do injectables or not. We can wear the sequins or we can wear something else. And we can change our minds. I'm talking about the way that people see us, but clearly those things are a reflection of our inner experience and how safe we feel in our bodies to live life fully. So when we face women being judged for shining brightly and we internalize that misogynist, patriarchal bullshit, it hurts us deep. So this week invites us to find ways to take risks, to summon the courage of our own hearts, to remind ourselves that our hearts have guided us through each and every season of our life thus far. And that courageous beating heart, it's like the solar energy that rules Leo, the sun, consistent, stable, reliable, steadfast, ever rising presence of the sun. It's in each and every one of us. And this transit asks us to own that steadfastness and shine as bright as the sun. So the meditation and reflection for this transit of the week is, where have I been hiding for fear of being judged? You can think about that. You can write about it. You can pray about it before you go to bed. Your mirror work is deep breath, straight spine, left eye. I see you have the courage to express yourself without self-judgment. And your mantra for the transit is, I will shine brightly no matter what. I hope you found this useful. Thank you so much for liking, hyping, subscribing, sharing. Please check out these videos above. Check out my free resources below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.